Welcome to Movie Talk, our weekly show about the people who create the movies and those who star in them. Our aim is to provide some insights into the hassles and rewards of the filmmaking process. Whether he plays a killer or a lover, a football star or a beat-up horse trainer down on his luck, Nick Nolte dominates the screen and commands our attention. Nolte can be hilarious as in Tropic Thunder or downright menacing as in Cape Fear, but there's no way filmgoers can ignore him. In terms of his career, he is still very much in our presence, thanks to his Oscar nomination for Warrior and his new HBO miniseries that is titled Luck. So Nick, the first time I met you I was in Bermuda in the early 80s or late 70s, and there was a friend of mine named Peter Yates who was shooting a picture called The Deep. It was about you and Jackie Bissett, and that was hot.
Well, yeah, I think it was more about Jackie's T-shirt than anything else. I never spent so much time, Peter, swimming upside down.
Dale, look, it's gold. I knew there was treasure down here.
I was what you would call a ding-dong on that film. I wasn't, I was young. It was the first film after Rich Man, Poor Man.
That's right.
I turned it down twice. I threw the script to Tom Mankiewicz at Peter Island, and I said, there's not a blank character in here.
That's right.
And Robert Shaw grabbed me and he said, it's a treasure picture, Nick.
But somehow it seemed, and maybe it's just in retrospect, that there were movies in that epoch that were fun to make. I mean, you had a series of pictures where you seemed to be enjoying yourself royally.
At the final end, when you take The Deep, we did 6 dives a day, 6 days a week for 6 months. A more concentrated diving than any marine biologist had ever done. I was riddled with fire, coral, parasites who'd go right through me. I talked to a doctor in Tartola, and he said, well, Nick, you know there's a lot of poisonous things out in the plant world. Just imagine what it is in the ocean. We don't know what it is, so just take these steroids and hope you get through the film.
That does right.
But it was great fun.
But I remember coming by the set one day of the North Dallas 40. and the director of that picture is a wonderful guy named Ted Kotcheff. Didn't have the remotest idea what football was.
No,
and you would take him aside and coach him. It was wonderful, because as an actor, you were really directing in many ways.
Yeah. You know, what reminds me of what I did back with North Dallas 40 reminds me what Brad Pitt did with Moneyball.
Yeah.
He has insisted that film come to fruition and be done. That's what I did with North Dallas 40. I came home from Mexico after Who Will Stop the Rain, and I said, I'm doing North Dallas 40. My manager said, you can't do that. My agent said, you can't do that. And I got a writer friend of mine. It took us 8 months to write. And right at the end of that, Michael Eisner called and said, you know, Nick, I'm at Paramount now, and what's this about North Dallas 40? And he had been one of 10 vice presidents of ABC when I did Rich Man, Poor Man.
Sure, that's right.
So he knew me. And I said, Michael, I'll be right in with the script, and I'll pitch it to you. So I did, and then he said, look, I'll read it tonight, I'll call you tomorrow. He did the next day, and he said, yeah, I'm going to do North Dallas 40.
Football was sort of a recurring theme in your pictures.
Yeah, I was. I was an athlete a number of times, or around athletics, you know. The transference of the athlete reaching perfection and playing in front of an audience, his spontaneity to respond to something, the heightened senses he has, these all go into acting.
Please, doctor. Without equivocation.
There is a family of diseases. It's quite rare. The leukodystrophies. Lorenzo has one of them. It's called ALD. What ALD is an inborn error of metabolism that causes a degeneration of the brain. It only affects males, usually between the ages of 5 and 10. Its progress is relentless. The end is inevitable.
Did you get involved in the massive research for that picture?
Yeah, Lorenzo, he was with the World Bank, and Michaela had graduated #1 at Columbia. So they were very intelligent people. And when their son was diagnosed with adrenal leukodystrophy, there was no cure for it. Now, I went there with Michelle Pfeiffer, and Michelle went with Michaela, and I went with Augusto. We got back on the plane, and I noticed Michelle reached in her bag and pulled out another script. And I said, are you going to do something else? She said, you know, it might cost me an Academy Award, but it's too heavy for me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she felt it was too heavy.
Yeah.
And then by luck, George Miller was getting on a plane, and he ran into Sarandon. And Sarandon was married to an Italian doctor that knew very well of this disease, and Augusto, and the whole thing. So they had a wonderful conversation. And then George called me and said, well, Susan Sarandon, you got to meet her. So
every picture is so fortuitous.
yeah, it is.
It's
The way it comes together is
good
just,
accidents or bad accidents.
Yeah. Wow. It's amazing how accidents go into the making of good pictures.
So we add a second barrier. We block the bad guys further up the chain. They saturate further up the chain between C22 and C24. There, we stop the bloody things completely.
And how'd you do that?
By adding monounsaturated C22.
Well, that's erucic acid.
Yes, exactly.
But the story was just phenomenal, and
How did you put your head into that role, though?
well, it was Augusto, hanging out with Augusto. You know, he told me every step of the way how he literally cried himself into it, knowing his son was going to die. He was sitting on a stairwell, a flight of stairs, and when he realized his son was going to die, his body collapsed, and he slid down a whole flight of stairs. And when he hit the bottom of the stairs, he realized he had to do something.
Over your career, though, you have worked with an amazing range of directors. You mentioned choosing the directors for, sometimes you've gone with the unexpected.
Yeah.
Like Streisand. I mean, I worked once with Streisand. She's not the easiest filmmaker to work with. She's demanding.
The way you're reacting makes me sick.
Well, how do you expect me to react, huh? What if I'd done the same thing to your son?
It's not the same thing.
I'll change your name and turn you into a Presbyterian
It's
quarterback.
quite different, Mr. Wingo. My son didn't try to kill himself.
Oh, give him time, Lowenstein. Give him time.
You son of a bitch.
But The Prince of Tides was in many ways your most famous picture.
Yes. It was a brilliant love story. You know, at the time I was doing Q&A with Sidney Lumet, and I weighed about 255 pounds, and I had 6-inch lifts on, had a mustache that came over my upper lip, and I had black hair. And it came through the AD Q&A. He said, you know, there's somebody that's would like you to read the book, Prince of Tides. Mm-hmm. He said, it's a very good read. And he said, I can't go further than that. So I read the book, and I came back to him, and I said, boy, this is a great book. Is there anything to it? And he said, well, there is a script. You can read the script. I'll give it to you, and then we'll talk about it then. So I read the script, and it was very good. And I said, well, now, what's the deal with Prince of Tides? I've read the script. I like it. He said, well, it's Barbara Streisand.
To direct.
The director. And I said, well, that's okay. He said, well, you'll have to go meet her. I said, that's fine. So I went up to her apartment in uptown New York. She doesn't know it to this day, but I weighed 255 pounds and had a black mustache and black hair. She doesn't believe that. She thinks I had blonde hair. She thinks I looked like what I did in Prince of Tides.
You notice these young people? They don't look very happy. They're committed to their professions and to their ambitions, but they're not committed to each other.
Katie, shut up and listen. if you don't leave, if you don't leave my family alone, and if you don't get out of here, you're gonna be hurting like you never dreamed.
Could you repeat that?
I said, if you don't get out of here, you're gonna be hurting like you never dreamed.
Did you enjoy scaring the hell out of people with a picture like Cape Fear?
Oh, yeah. You know, Marty said, first of all, Marty, I wasn't considered for the role. Really? Because Marty, he really doesn't watch contemporary film that much, or he didn't at that time. So he thought of me as a big fat painter. And I was in New York doing Prince of Tides. So I said to this friend of mine, I said, there's a party for a casino. Let's put on our black suits and go down and just hang against the walls like we're lawyers. You know, so we're just standing there against the wall. Marty goes by and he goes, and he comes on walking. He circles around, he comes back again, he goes. And then he comes walking up and he goes, Nick? I said, yes, Marty, it's me. Congratulations on Casino. And he said, well, thank you. But wait right here. I want to get Bobby. Just wait right here. And I said, I'll wait right here, Marty. So he goes, get Bob. And if you know Bob, he's one of the shyest men in the world. You know, so Bob came up and he said, how do you do, you know? And then Marty said, where are you staying? I said, Parker Meridian. And he said, well, that's right around from the office. Could you come over at noon tomorrow and we could talk? And I said, sure, I'd love to. And that's how I got the role.
Now, again, lastly, on the subject of things being the fates, the nomination for The Warrior. The Warrior did not get the wide audience that it deserved, I think. Yeah. But you're just terrific in that picture. And did you resist that role at all, or did you sense this was something that was right for me?
No, I didn't resist it at all.
We train. That's it. I don't want to hear a word about anything but training. You understand? You want to tell your war stories? You can take them down to VFW. You can take them to a meeting or to church or whatever the hell it is that you do nowadays.
What about Cool Boy?
What about him? I told him I don't train with people that I don't know.
The devil you know.
Excuse me?
The devil you know is better than the devil you don't.
You're a serious guy, and over the years, your choice of films, you've always made some very interesting pictures on interesting themes. You didn't allow yourself to get typecast as the good-looking kid.
No.
And that's tough.
Yeah. You know, that comes from Peter, from having 14 years of theater before I got to this town. And when I decided I was an actor, that's what I would pursue, I knew that I had to do the roles that I needed to do when you need to do them. So that left out L.A. or New York, because those are centers of success or moving on. I had to go to the old log theater or the little theater of the Rockies and be a guest artist where you get $55 a week, and you could make it on little cans of spaghetti, and you know, and it was tremendous fun.
Now, you told me that you tried to make one European picture every year.
Yes.
What's your motivation to do it?
Well, I started doing this maybe 7, 8 years ago, and it was the French really that got me involved in it, and then I began to see that there was a market there that you could, you know, if you had the connection, find out what Spain was doing and find out if there was a role in there. And this last summer, I went and did a Spanish film called La Puerta Frita. It means the cold door.
Right. See, what's daunting, though, is that major European pictures have trouble getting distribution in this country.
Well, I had a conversation with Spanish and German, and the French not so much. They like to just stay by themselves. But the Germans and the Spanish and some Italians. And I said, look, you guys, instead of chasing American distribution, you ought to just make your films more international, include some Americans, some Germans, some Italians, make international films and fill this gap of independent films.
Absolutely.
And if you could do it in Europe, it will eventually have to be done in the United States, because the United States itself is not filling the independent market. Right. They have literally obliterated any theaters for it to exist in.
The rebels will exchange their Hutu prisoners, and you people, all of you, will be able to move behind the rebel lines where it's safe.
The Interahamwe, what about them?
No one controls them.
This time they will kill us all.
They will kill us all if we stay here. We have to take the chance.
What's really interesting is how he offered me the film. Terry called me up and he said, you know, Nick, sometimes there are films that could possibly be assassinated on, but it must be made. Would you like to join us? And I said, in assassination? Absolutely, Terry. I wouldn't miss it for the world.
Get back! You're not to hurt these people.
Get back! Move back! Look, I told you I've got cockroaches in your truck.
No. There's political refugees under UN sanction.
We had extras coming 20 miles in, some from the Congo, some from Rwanda, some genocidians, some the killers. And we would have days when there'd be a scream back amongst the extras, and Don and I'd run back there. We'd find out that some woman from Rwanda had some guy say to her, you know, I killed your kids, I killed your dad, I killed this, and I'm going to kill you. And then by the time she would scream, the guy would run off, you know, and split. It was just truly a nightmare. And we only got a taste of it.
About like last time?
About like last time. But maybe you let him stretch out a little in the lane.
Great. Because he's been pulling my arms off.
He wants to run.
So many excellent filmmakers are migrating to cable. And indeed, you're doing Luck at HBO, which is an example of that.
Yeah.
Michael Mann and company.
Yep.
And I have a feeling you must enjoy that role. You're a trainer, right?
I'm a horse trainer, right. No, I am enjoying it very much. As long as the cable situation allows us enough time to do good work, we're going to be very satisfied in that field. And they will turn out the best work. There's no question about it. It won't be the magic of the big screen, but the stories will be much more complex. I guess I still know a peach when I see one. What has happened in film is the stories have condensed down narrower and narrower and narrower. I always criticized the business. I said, you guys are the funniest businessman I've ever met in my life. Here, you ignore like 75% of your potential audience. You just write them off. Anybody over 25, they're not going to go to the theater. So you appeal from 8 to 25. And that's it. And I say, you could have a much bigger business if you paid attention.
Well, Nick, you're a real pro, and it's a joy to talk to you
Well, it's a joy
about
to
all
talk
of
to
this,
you.
really. And thank you for coming in.
Thank you very much, Peter.